Okay, hello again, everyone. Welcome to this Tempo webinar on unifying strategy and execution, road mapping with Tempo's Roadmunk and Structure. So my name is Bobby Niney. I'm a senior product manager with Tempo focused on integrations with our road mapping application, and I'm located in Ontario, Canada. I have the distinct pleasure of being joined today by Daniel Duffield, a senior solutions engineer here at Tempo, who will be assisting me with answering your questions. And Daniel's joining us from Texas today. So our presentation today is around unifying strategy and execution, and in particular, how we achieve that unification with a new integration between two very powerful Tempo products. To that end, what we'll talk about today briefly is what strategic portfolio management, or SPM, is, and Tempo's approach to effective SPM streamlining, and specifically how our road mapping application enables you to seamlessly transition into the execution phase after you've completed your planning. You'll see that integration in action with a simple example that's going to highlight just how easy it is to unify or bridge the strategy with tactical execution. At the end of the presentation, Daniel and I will field any questions that you guys might have. So put simply, strategic portfolio management is how an organization chooses to focus its priorities, people, and spend across their portfolio of products and services. In other words, what are the most impactful things you could be working on? What does it take to deliver on those things? And in the course of execution, are you on track against your original timeline and budget? Tempo has a very wide and powerful offering for SPM across road mapping, program execution, capacity management, time tracking, financial management, and reporting. But today we're going to really zero in on road mapping and program execution, which are served by our Roadmunk and Structure products. So for those unfamiliar, Roadmunk is the Tempo road mapping solution that enables users to construct beautiful, custom-tailored roadmaps literally in a matter of minutes. And Structure is a powerful extension designed to enhance Jira's project management and issue tracking capabilities by, among other things, simplifying the task of working with Jira's hierarchical organization and managing related work across multiple Jira projects. The issue today, though, is that all too often, people treat the roadmap as a static artifact. You know, we go off, we plan a roadmap, discuss and debate it, and eventually approve the items on it. But once the roadmap has been disseminated, unfortunately, in a lot of cases, it gets discarded. But not only that, as you're shifting from planning into execution, another major issue is that people have to start from scratch by, for example, creating epics and stories in tools like Jira that correspond to those items on the roadmap. Well, today I have some great news for you because Tempo's new product that integrates Roadmunk and Structure together addresses both of those issues. And this cohesive integration makes it dead simple to hit the ground running as you seamlessly transition from planning into execution. But not only that, it also keeps the roadmap up to date with your progress so you can quickly and easily assess how far along you are on the items on your roadmap and whether you're on track, ahead of schedule, or potentially even falling behind. In other words, the roadmap becomes a living, dynamic artifact that abstracts all of the complexity of the tactical implementation details and provides you with a nice, simple, summarized view of your status and progress on the original roadmap. And I'll show you exactly how it does that right now. So we're going to go into the demo here. Okay, so we're here in Roadmunk, which is Tempo's road mapping solution. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be constructing a roadmap from scratch. You'll see how easy it is to actually create a roadmap. It takes literally a matter of minutes, if even that. So we're going to create this new roadmap. Let's assume that I am part of a software organization and I have a bunch of application development activity that's going to be taking place in April. So we're going to construct a roadmap to depict what exactly we're going to be working on in April. And once we have that roadmap, what I'm going to be doing is showing you how easy and simple it is to actually get that information across into Structure and to seamlessly transition from the planning phase as you're creating the roadmap into the tactical phase where you're executing on the roadmap. So to create a new roadmap here, what we're going to do is click the plus roadmap button. We're going to select new roadmap. We're going to give our roadmap a title here. Let's call this 2024 App Development. And let's go ahead and add 4 items to our roadmap. Items are the things that you want plotted on the roadmap, basically the titles of those things. So here, let's suppose that I am going to be working on an Android app. While we're at it, we're also going to be building an iOS app. We're going to support a web app as well. And last but not least, we're not going to ignore Windows. Let's build a Windows app as well. Okay, so we've got 4 different things on our roadmap here. Let's also go ahead and start to schedule when we anticipate work will take place on these 4 items. And it's as simple as clicking into the date field here. So let's suppose that the Android app development is going to take place in the first week of April. So April 1st to April 5th. We're going to apply those dates. Next, let's actually schedule the iOS app work. Let's say that's the 2nd week of April. So April 8th to April 12th. We're going to apply those dates. Web app work will be the 3rd week of April, so April 15th to 19th. And Windows app will be in that final full week of April, so that's April 22nd to April 26th. Okay, so our roadmap is adding a little bit more context here. We know what we're working on. We know roughly when we anticipate working on those things. Let's add one more field here. To add just a little bit more color and context to the roadmap. You can add, by the way, as many custom fields as you want on these roadmaps. The whole purpose of Roadmunk here is that it's agnostic. It allows you to set up these custom fields to track whatever is important for your context. So in this case, I'm going to click the plus button here to add a new field to track more information. I don't have to create a new field. I'm going to use an existing account field. Account fields are types of fields that are available to all the roadmaps on the account. I'm going to use this existing team field down here. So you can see we have a new column for team, and I'm going to specify which teams are going to be responsible for working on these items on the roadmap. So we'll click into team here. We'll say that this is the alpha team. iOS will be worked on by the Bravo team, web app by the Charlie team, and the Windows app will be with the Delta team. Okay. So now we know what we're working on, roughly when we anticipate working on them, and who will be responsible for working on these items. So before we actually create a structure out of this and synchronize with structure, let's actually create a visualization of this roadmap. And I'll just show you how easy that is as well. We'll click the plus view button here. We have the choice between swim lane and timeline. Swim lane is great. It's a very flexible roadmap visualization because you don't have to have time associated with or dates associated with the items on the roadmap. They can be plotted against other criteria, other fields. But in this case, I do have dates here, and I actually want to depict how time elapses and the work across the timeline. So we're going to use a timeline visualization. You can even give your view a title. I'm just going to explicitly call this timeline view of 2024 app development. And what that's going to do, it's going to create an initial timeline view, which you can then further customize based on your needs. So depending on the audience and what information you want to present, you can fine-tune this roadmap visualization. What I'm doing here, I'm zooming in on these items that have been plotted on the timeline. You can see it's a very simple roadmap here initially. It's just showing those 4 items depicted across time. So you can see this red line here is actually where we are at today. You can see the month of April here, and you can see all 4 of those initiatives that we're working on in that month, starting right at the beginning of April with the Android app, and then culminating with Windows app towards the end of April. Okay, but we're going to go ahead and further customize this roadmap. Let's add headers because I want to see which teams are responsible for working on these things. So we're going to use an existing field. We're going to use that team field that we're tracking. And now you can see those initiatives lined up against the teams that are going to be responsible for working on them. Okay, we're going to zoom in just a little bit more. I'm going to do one more thing here. Actually, technically 2. I'm just going to further customize the roadmap. So I'm going to go to our format panel here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hide empty headers. So we don't have any of these items that are not assigned to a team. So I can get rid of this line at the very bottom here. That's what hide empty headers does. So now it's gone. And I'm just going to change the theme from standard to compact. And there you have it. There's our very simple roadmap that's actually visualized on a timeline visualization. So we've got Android app, followed by iOS app work, web app work, and like I said, culminating in Windows app at the end of April. Very straightforward. So now what we want to do is, with this roadmap that we've planned, we get our buy-in from our stakeholders, we socialize the roadmap with our stakeholders, but that's not where our job ends. And that's really where this Roadmunk structure integration shines, because now you can seamlessly transition from this planning stage and developing this roadmap into the tactical execution stage without skipping a beat. And I'll show you just how easy and quick it is to set up this integration so that you have seamless transition from planning into execution as part of the this SPM solution. So setting up the integration actually requires 2 steps, but the first step is just a one-time step required to be performed by the account administrator. And what they have to do is go to the account settings here, go to the integrations tab, and you can see that we actually have existing structure integrations that have been set up. The really nice thing with Roadmunk is that you can set up an unlimited number of these integrations. So you have multiple structure instances. You can support all of them on your roadmaps here. So you can have an unlimited number of these set up. But to create a net new one, we go down to the bottom here, we click Add an Integration. We'd select Structure here. And it's going to require 2 pieces of information. One, you're going to have to give this integration a name. Now, if you have multiple structure integrations that are going to be required with different instances of structure, you're going to want a label here that very clearly identifies which structure instance this is. If you only have a single instance of structure, a single instance of Jira, you could just name this something as simple as just structure. But the other thing that we need here is a token from structure. So the really nice thing is I don't have to actually point this to any URL. I don't have to use my Jira credentials. I just have to obtain a token from structure. And the way you do that is you go into Jira. And in Jira, you click on Apps here. We'll go down to Manage Your Apps. And on the left-hand side here, you're going to see Structure Cloud listed. And there's settings associated with them. So we're going to click on the Settings button here. And at the top here, you're going to see a button that will generate a temporary token. So if you click Get Temporary Token, it's going to spit out a token here that you can copy. And what you're going to want to do is copy that token into this field. And that's it. You just hit Create Integration. And that way, Roadmunk now connects with your instance of structure. And again, that's just a one-time step, never has to be performed again. And if we were creating this new structure, you'd see the new structure listed here in the list. Okay. Now the second step is at the roadmap level. So we have this roadmap here. In order to actually integrate this with structure, we click on the integration button here. We select Set Up Structure Integration. That's going to walk me through a very quick wizard here. First thing it's going to ask me is which of those instances of structure do you want to integrate with? I'm going to go down here and select this particular instance. I'll hit Next. Here you can provide an optional description for the structure that's about to be created, because what's about to happen here is that the information on the roadmap is going to automatically generate a whole new structure. And so you can, right from this screen, provide a description so people are aware of what the structure is actually tracking, what its purpose is. And you can also set up the permissions here at this point too. So should it be public and accessible by everybody on the Jira account, or should it be private and limited to just me as the creator of the structure? In this case, we're going to make it public. We're going to hit Next, and that's it. That's all you have to specify in order to get this going in structure. We're going to hit Let's Go. Now, that's both figurative and literal, because let's go, we're now going into our execution stage here. So we want to actually track the work that's required in order to deliver on that roadmap. And so right away, in just a couple of seconds here, we have a new structure that's been automatically created. And you can see the title of the structure. It's called 2024 App Development. That's reflective of the roadmap title, 2024 App Development. And you can see here as well that it's automatically created these items in structure that correspond to the items that we set up on the roadmap. Now, I should highlight one thing here. For simplicity, to illustrate the Roadmunk structure integration and its utility, I'm not leveraging sub-items on this particular roadmap. However, you can fully leverage sub-items. If you click these 3 dots here, you can add a child item to Android app by adding a sub-item here. And sub-items are supported with the structure integration. So you'd see a hierarchy reflected here. But in this case, I'm just going to keep this example very simple. Okay, so we've got our 4 items that correspond with the items on the roadmap. And the other thing to highlight here, well, 2 things. One, we know that this is a structure integrated with Roadmunk because you can actually see on the bottom right-hand side here that this structure is integrated with Roadmunk. Roadmunk is a hyperlink here, so if we click on that, that's going to take me to the actual roadmap that spawned that structure in the first place. I already have it open anyways here, but we'll just see the roadmap pop up in a second. And you can see that's the timeline view that we created for that particular roadmap. And the other thing to highlight is that we automatically have a baseline in Gantt here to start with. So the baseline is represented by this dotted line here. So you can actually see that Android app is going to be worked on in the first week of April. It's the first of the things that need to be worked on. And this corresponds with the dates that we had set up on the roadmap. So remember, we've populated the dates to indicate when we'd be roughly estimating we'd be working on these things. That's how the baseline was created. So in the first week of April, we're working on the Android app. Second week of April, we'll be working on the iOS app. Third week of April, web app. Fourth week, the Windows app. And you can actually see, if I click on this drop down here to view baselines, you can see that there is that automatic baseline that was created, and it's titled Original Roadmunk Integration, and you can see the date next to it. One really nice feature of Structure, and I mean there's dozens and dozens of powerful features in Structure here, but one really nice thing about the baselines is you can create additional baselines beyond the one that was created automatically here. So as things shift, as plans change, if you need additional baselines, even for scenario planning, you create multiple baselines here. So now, because we're shifting into this tactical mode where we want to execute on these things, you basically have 3 paths forward for how to represent the work associated with these items that came from the roadmap. The first is to associate it with existing work that's being tracked in Jira and Structure. So I don't have to start from scratch necessarily. And in fact, lots of organizations work in such a way that while the roadmap planning is ongoing, there is some work behind the scenes by the engineering teams or the software development teams as they prepare to work on the items on the roadmap. And so oftentimes tickets are going into Jira even as the roadmap is being developed. So it's not like you're starting from scratch necessarily. The really nice thing is that you can associate existing work with these new Roadmunk items that have been created in this new structure here. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. But the second option that you're going to have is to create new Jira tickets, basically, out of these items here as well. And I'll show you how to do that. The third option is to basically do a hybrid of both of those. So associate some existing work with some of these items and create net new Jira tickets for some of them that don't have any work items that are being tracked in Jira. So I'll show you both of those. We'll basically take the hybrid approach here. So Structure makes it very easy to associate existing work with these new items here. And the way you do that, if you click over on the top right-hand side here, right now we're in the Gantt view. I'm going to go to the double grid view, because in the double grid view, it retains the new structure on the left-hand side here, but it allows me to pull up other existing structures on the right-hand side here. Okay, so we're going to select this particular structure called App Development Structure. And the reason why is because we were using that structure prior to the roadmap being created to actually track some of the work that we're going to be doing in April. Right? So this is how you can associate existing work with the items that were created on the roadmap. So for example, Android app, we can see here that there is actually an epic that's tracking Android app development work. In fact, there is a hierarchy associated with it. The really nice thing about Structure is it does a really great job of consolidating information across multiple projects, across complex hierarchies, and simplifying and aggregating that into a view like this here, where it rolls up things like progress. So it's very clear to understand all the tasks, all the effort that goes into these epics or initiatives. It simplifies that hierarchy and those relationships. But all we need to do to associate this existing work with this roadmap item is by a drag and drop operation. So we're going to select Android app development here. We're going to drag that over under Android app here. We're going to slightly shift it to the right. And you're going to see that that's going to fold in that existing Android app development work into our roadmap Android app item here. Okay, so right away, Structure has made it that simple for me to associate net new work here from the roadmap side with existing tactical work that's going on the Jira and Structure side. Simple drag and drop operation. Now, similarly here, you can see that we have something represented here that's already tracking web app development work. So let's go ahead and drag and drop that as well. So we're going to drag it under web app, slight shift to the right here. And there it's embedded under web app now. Okay, let's do the same for iOS app. I'm just going to drag iOS up a little here. So we're going to grab this item here that represents the iOS app development work, drag that under iOS app, and that is now embedded under iOS app. Now, you'll notice that I don't have anything tracking Windows app work. Let's suppose that that came up as a surprise item in our planning work. We realized we do need to support Windows, but I don't have any tickets in Jira tracking any of that information. I don't have anything in my Structure tracking that. Not a problem. Look how easy Structure makes it to actually get going on this item. I can click into Windows app here and actually just convert this to a Jira issue. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to click that button. It's going to pull up the modal here to actually create a new Jira item. In this case, I'm going to make it an epic. It's called Windows app. It's just basing that off of the title that came through from the roadmap. Okay. I'm even going to give it some start dates and due dates. So let's say this one is from April 21st as the start, and April 26th as the end. So in this case, I'm just going to highlight that for my particular use case, I am using start date and due date to track when work should start and when work should end. And you'll see why that's important in just a second. So we're going to hit the create button, and you'll see that the icon here is going to update. And now we have an actual Jira ticket associated with this work here. So there's an actual Jira epic in this case that's been created to track Windows app work. So now I've got a hybrid of mapping or associating existing work with some of these items and basically creating net new tickets as well. Okay, so what we're going to do, let's pull up our Gantt view one more time here. So the way we do that, we click on the three dots here. We're going to click on Gantt. And that's going to take us back to this Gantt view. Now, you're going to notice that some of the work associated with this is falling into March. And that's because I haven't yet properly configured how I want scheduling to be performed by Structure. But it's very quick to actually set that up. We're going to click on the gear icon here. So we're going to go to the Gantt chart settings. We're going to go to scheduling here. By the way, I've mentioned this throughout the presentation here, but there's a lot of powerful features in Structure. We could spend an entire day, literally, I don't think I'm exaggerating there, going through all of the power features that are available in Structure here. But what I'm really trying to illustrate here is just how the integration behaves and what capabilities are supported there. But with scheduling here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to specify that I want to allow manual scheduling, and I'm going to map the Jira dates to how Gantt should actually compute start and finish. Okay, so we're going to go with start date, and our finish date is tracked by due date. Okay, as simple as that. I hit save, and you're going to actually see that the Gantt is going to update now to reflect that start and due date are how we're tracking our dates here for the work that we're doing. Okay, so you can see our baseline, you can see when the work is taking place. Okay, and as I mentioned earlier, at any point you can create new baselines here if you want to. So over on the left-hand side here, you can see I can drag and drop these now too, because I've allowed for manual scheduling. So if I want to shift this a little bit to reflect slightly different dates, I can. But you can see again that over on the left-hand side here, we have our items that were created from our roadmap, and we've got our Gantt view. Now, as we're executing on this work, inevitably, people are going to wonder what the status of the project is. For executive audiences, a Gantt view isn't ideal because a Gantt view could look messy. Now, this is a very simple example. I went with a simple example so I can illustrate conceptually what we're doing here. But most people are going to have a very complex list of items here. And so your Gantt view is going to be busy or populated. And so that may not be the best presentation mode for an executive audience to depict item progress and how things are going and whether or not you're adhering to the scheduled work or if you're basically behind schedule or ahead of schedule. The way to make that very easy is to convey that information through the roadmap. So the really nice thing here is that you could have your tactical teams visually executing on the work here, tracking the tactical details in Jira, in Structure over here, but have a consolidated, rolled up view that is beautifully and simply articulated on the roadmap visualization. So what we're going to do, let's flip back to the roadmap here. I'm just going to highlight a couple of things here. One, you're going to notice that we have a new ID column here. The moment I integrated this with Structure, it gave me the internal structure IDs for these items that have been created here. Okay, but what we're going to do next here, we're going to click on the integration button here and we're going to refresh the view. And the reason why we want to do that is because now we have our structure side fleshed out. We have work associated with these items. And we want to see what that looks like now on the roadmap side. And you can see that the roadmap has been refreshed with additional information. So a few things to highlight here. One, you can see that there's now an item hierarchy associated with a few of these items here. So notice the chevron here. If you click on that, you can see that this has a sub-item associated with it. And it's basically reflective of the hierarchy that was associated here. But the really nice thing is that you can collapse this on the roadmap so that you're not necessarily depicting the information included in the sub-items. Because maybe, again, for an executive summary, the audience doesn't necessarily care about the individual details that make up this larger initiative. So you can simplify with this sort of table view that you're seeing here. The other thing that came through here is a new progress column. So it's depicting how far along you are on the work here. So you can see that one of the items on our roadmap is actually being worked on. We're basically a third of the way through on this initiative here to build an Android app. Okay. If we actually flip back to the Structure here, you can actually see that as well, right? The Android app was 33.3% of the way through. Okay, so it's reflecting that on the roadmap. Also included here are the Gantt start times and the Gantt finish times that have been brought over from Structure. And if we go into the timeline view, what I want to highlight is that you can, in this visualization, depict how far along you are on these initiatives in the same way that it's being depicted here on the table view. So if we go back to timeline here, let's go to our format panel. We're going to go to item progress here. If we click into that, you're going to notice that there is an entry here called progress. This is the progress that is automatically being fed from Structure into the roadmap. So if I select this as the field that I want to use to depict how much progress we're making on these items, you'll see that it starts to color in the items here. Let's go close this format panel. Let's zoom in a little bit more here. Okay, so you can actually see that Android app development work is 33.33% of the way through, but none of these have been started yet. So we haven't started work on iOS app, web app, or the Windows app. Not yet. But let's flip back into Structure here. Let's open up this Windows app ticket. And I want to show you how, as information gets updated in Jira and Structure, that can be reflected back into the roadmap with such ease. So here, let's suppose that the Windows app is actually now completed. We've done the work here. So let's mark this ticket as done. Okay, so now it's set to done. We're going to go back to our roadmap here. Let's go ahead and actually refresh the data from Structure. And what you're going to notice is that Windows app will get updated in just a moment here to reflect that it's actually 100% completed because we've completed all the work associated with that particular ticket. Okay, you can see the same reflected on the table view here. If we go back to that table, you're going to see in just a second that Windows app is going to be 100% completed with the refresh data. And there you have it, 100% the way through. So notice, as information was updated here in Jira and in Structure, that can be reflected very easily, very quickly on the roadmap. So when your executive team, when your stakeholders are asking, what is the progress of these items? Instead of having to dig through complex, convoluted Jira data, where they may not necessarily understand even where to go look up this information or how to summarize it, you can have that very simply and succinctly articulated here on the roadmap, both in the table view, in this view here, and on the timeline visualization, where we get the colored in items in the timeline view. So it makes it very seamless as work is ongoing to be tracking this on a roadmap. And a really nice thing too with Roadmonk, I don't even have to have a Roadmonk account in order to see this information. I can publish this roadmap, I can export it to a PNG, to an HTML file, or to a URL. So for example, with URL, I can generate a URL and send that URL to my stakeholders, and those stakeholders can basically land on this roadmap, see all the information that you're seeing here without the need for an actual Roadmonk account. So it makes it very quick and easy to share all of this information with your stakeholders. One other thing to highlight here, if we go back to the integration button, to get to the structure, if you ever lose track of where the structure is, if you click on the integration button here, you'll see that you can actually open the structure. So we're going to go ahead and click that. And that'll take me to the associated structure, the same one that we were just looking at. And there you have it, 2024 app development. Okay, so we're going to go back to the table view here. I'm just going to highlight a few other things here. So this is the first iteration of this integration because we are actively working on a lot of improvements and enhancements to this integration. So what you're going to be seeing in the weeks and months ahead here, we're going to be depicting both on the table view and in the timeline visualizations how you're doing in terms of the original schedule. So what is the delta between the actual state of the work versus what was planned? Are you behind schedule? Are you on track? Or are you ahead of schedule? So we're going to enable the ability to simply visualize that information on the timeline view here and in the table view. We're also going to be synchronizing additional information so that you have the full context of the items on the roadmap, both on the road mapping side here and in structure. So you're going to see more context, more color in the information that's shared across both applications to make it as seamless as possible. Again, we want to avoid people having to context switch between both these applications and make that transition from planning mode into execution mode as seamless as possible. And then the other thing too to highlight is that in this scenario here, we started with a roadmap and we created a net new structure out of it. However, we are also going to be supporting the ability to create a roadmap based off of an existing structure. So that's something else that you can look forward to in the weeks and months ahead. Perfect. So as you saw there, not only do you not have to start from scratch as you transition from planning into execution by having the roadmap data available in Structure and Jira, but Structure will continuously track your progress and feed that information back to the roadmap. And all of that with absolutely no heavy lifting required, which makes it really easy. If you're interested in learning more about strategic portfolio management, you can visit our SPM Help Center. And if you missed our previous SPM webinars, you can easily access them using the links provided in this presentation. We do host monthly learning webinars as well, and to learn more about past or upcoming sessions, you can visit Tempo Events, and at any time you can connect with us at events@tempo.io. With that, I'm going to just answer any questions that you guys might have. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to flip over to our Q&A section here on Zoom and see what we have as questions. Okay, so can flex items be used in Structure with this integration? Yes, absolutely. Flex items can be used to group issues and draft future Jira issues, which is really convenient on the Jira side. And they absolutely can be used with this Roadmunk Structure integration, basically giving you even more flexibility around tactical execution planning. So yes, the answer is definitely you can use flex items on the Structure side with this integration. What if I don't want to use a timeline view with this integration in Roadmonk? That is not a problem. You can actually set up any type of visualization with a Structure integrated roadmap. For this demo today, I was using timeline as an example, but you can also use our more flexible swim lane visualization. Swim lane tends to be very popular because you don't actually need dates on your items, whereas on timeline, you do have to have dates because it's obviously a timeline is depicting the passage of time. So there, timeline is necessary if you're using dates, but if you're not using dates, you can use swim lane. And yes, you can use it with the Structure integrated roadmaps. Can item progress be set manually in Roadmonk if our Jira data is not entirely accurate? Yes, you can use a custom item progress field. In fact, let me go ahead and screen share again. Let me just quickly show you what that looks like. Okay, so I'm back in Roadmunk here. This was the item progress that was basically automatically computed with our structure integration. So this was coming in from structure. But as the person asking the question stated, in some cases, perhaps the progress that is reflected here is not accurate. And I'm assuming in this case, we actually have a lot of customers who aren't, for example, tracking go-to-market efforts or marketing efforts related to the initiatives on their roadmap. So the roadmap is more reflective of the technical effort required to deliver on the items that are listed on the roadmap. But it doesn't encapsulate those, tail end activities like go-to-market planning. And so in those cases, yes, you can set up a dedicated progress field. And the way you do that is you click the plus button here, hit create new field. You'd set up a numeric percentage field. Let's just call this real progress. I'll hit create field. And you can see that it's actually added a new column here, a new field called real progress. And you can actually manually specify the progress. So again, in the example here, if your go-to-market activities are not encapsulated in what's being tracked in Jira, and you're not necessarily really 33% of the way through, you can manually set that at, for example, 25% to indicate the true progress. And then on the visualization, if we go back to the timeline view here, if you go to our format panel, you scroll down to the section called item progress. Right now it's using the structure progress, but I can flip that to use the manually established progress. If I click real progress, you'll see that that item that I just updated, it's 25% of the way through. Do you have an aggregated view to combine multiple structure roadmaps? Yes, we do. Roadmunk has a feature called portfolio roadmaps, and portfolio roadmaps actually aggregate 2 or more individual roadmaps into a single view. So if you want sort of a high-level program overview instead of down to the level of a particular project or initiative, you can have that higher altitude view using the feature called portfolio roadmaps. Again, they combine multiple roadmaps together. We received a few questions about the fields I was using on the roadmap and whether they can be customized. Yes, absolutely. Roadmunk is a very agnostic tool. We don't make assumptions about the product or the service that you offer. And so at the end of the day, you can basically set up as many custom fields as you want as are important for you to add context to your roadmap. So as you saw there, I added this progress field that I was manually setting. But if I go back into the section here to add new fields, you'll see that if I hit create new field, we actually support multiple types of fields. We have list, which is single select fields. We've got multi-select fields, numeric fields, which I was showing you earlier, text fields, and then something called team members fields as well, which basically adds a field that will include a list of names of all the people who are on the Roadmunk account. So you can very quickly assign ownership, for example, of the tasks on the roadmap here. If I go back to this roadmap here, just to show you, you saw me setting up the roadmap, but if I have to add new teams to the team field, it's very easy to do that. You click the 3 dots here, you go edit field, and then you can add or remove values from these fields. So it's entirely driven off of these custom fields. So again, you can track what is most important to you. Okay, looks like it's it for now. So if you do have any questions that we didn't get around to answering here, please, what we can do reach out to us at events@tempo.io. So that's one means of reaching out to us, so we can potentially answer that via email. But again, please visit our monthly learning webinars that are listed on the Tempo events section of the website to continue through our monthly sessions on our Tempo products. And with that, I'd like to thank everybody for joining. Appreciate you taking the time, and happy road mapping.